I'm working on something that's a first for the channel, and that is going to be a full kitchen build. That series is going to be coming up in a week or two on the channel, but I had two outlier cabinets that didn't really fit into the plan of how I wanted to formulate that series for the channel, so I decided to use them as a great example of how you can make basically any size cabinet using similar ideals and principles and how to set up all of your cuts. The only big changes are just going to be the pieces you start out with. So these are both upper cabinets. One's is essentially part of a coffee nook, and the other is going above the fridge. And on all of my cabinets, I have a top and a bottom, a backer. If there's any shelves or partitions in there, those as well. And then on this entire build, I'm putting an integrated tongue on the front of all of my cabinets, and that is how I'm attaching the face frame. So you can see on my cut list, because I'm using dados and rabbets for all of my pieces, I have to account for those grooves in all of my measurements. So the shelves are not going to be as wide as the actual cabinet. I have to subtract the thickness of the dado on both sides. So you'll see I have a set of final dimension as well as a set of cuts. For this entire build, I'm also using pre-finished ply. I found a really solid supplier of it right by my shop, so I get free delivery on it. All in all, I think I've ordered over 20 sheets of 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch ply. And it's been great stuff. The veneer on it is a hair thin. It doesn't matter for this project, especially with all of the cuts. It hides any tear out, but that is something to consider if you're using certain materials from different suppliers. So like I said, I'm going to start with my sides. The sides are where all the bread and butter come from with my builds. The widths come at the end. So for the top and the bottom, I'm coming up 3/4 of an inch from the bottom. I don't love to use rabbets at the bottoms, because during glue up, if you have that little extra material at the bottom, it makes it easier because it holds it in place. All the base cabinets have rabbets, so when I get to that, it'll be slightly different construction, but you can see I could cut those both at the same time because they're coming up the same amount from the top and the bottom, and my face frame is going to cover that extra area. For the fridge cabinet, obviously the piece is not as tall, but it is going to be wider, so it's the same principle though. I'm putting the exact same cuts on that thicker panel to designate the top and the bottom. At this point, I'm putting a sacrificial fence on my table saw with a dado stack. The stack is a little less than 3/4 of an inch. If you're buying plywood, 3/4 of an inch plywood's not a true 3/4. You really have to measure and make test cuts, which is what I was doing there. In order to dial that in, I always make sure I get a dado to fit in that test cut before sending all of my pieces through. Otherwise, it'll be a headache because it's not all the same. So with that sacrificial fence, I have the fence just leaning out about 1/2 of an inch. All of my cuts are going about 3/8 of an inch into my piece, so the height of the dado stack stays the same for the shelves, the tops, the bottoms, and the backs. And all I'm doing is cutting a 1/2 inch rabbet on the back with that sacrificial fence, and then I'll have that on all of my pieces. You'll see that cut on the tall ones. And then the tall ones are also having a fixed middle. A lot of people like floating shelves, but on these taller pieces, even though plywood's considered dimensionally stable, it is going to bow on you on long runs especially. So I always recommend at least one fixed shelf, which the customer agreed to, and then above and below that will be movable shelves. Once I had the movable shelf on those two longer verticals, the fridge is not going to have any shelves. I can do that integrated tongue. It's really easy. It's essentially the same setup as before. I'm raising the blade a little bit because my goal is to get that tongue to be 1/4 of an inch thick, so I could put my 1/4 inch dado stack in my saw when it comes time to cut all the face frames and just shoot all of my pieces through. So I'm going about 3/16 of an inch on both sides, and I'm going about 3/8 of an inch deep into the material. I'll go 3/8 of an inch deep into my face frame, and that will give me an attachment point. So once again, I don't think I showed it on this one, but I have a scrap piece I'm testing all of these cuts on. So I'm just going to send it through, flip it over, and send it through again on all of my pieces. Like I said, all of the work in my cabinetry is going to be on the sides. Once you make all of these cuts on the sides, the rest of the process is quite simple. And because my shop is so small, I made all of these cabinets in sets. I believe this is the second set of cabinets. I'm showing 2 of them, but this stuff is much easier to batch out, especially when it comes time to do doors and drawers. Now, the top and bottom of my pieces also have to have that integrated tongue. So I had rough cut all of my pieces in the beginning. You saw in the beginning of the video I had a stack for both of my cabinets. I add that tongue to it, even though it has to be cut down to width later on, just so I don't have to switch it back out. My 2 sets of blades out in the table saw, and then this is just trimming that down to size. This is the middle shelf as well. Same process, only this one isn't going to come to the front of the cabinet because the style of the kitchen is inset doors, so that that middle shelf actually sits inside the face frame. When it comes time to glue these up, this is one of the reasons I prefer this construction. It's just so much easier to get everything square. You don't have to hold anything in place because it's all going to fit into those joints. So I could just add glue, tap everything together. This stuff also has to be transported almost an hour away from my shop in my vehicle. So you're moving all this stuff throughout the shop, going down a major highway, transporting it to the customer's house. Butt joints have a tendency to want to shift and move on you, and I just prefer this method. But if this looks too complicated, you could still use this math and these concepts with butt joints. Just adjust your math for not having it. The other thing I found working with this pre-finished ply is, and I knew this going into it, your glue's not going to stick to this finished surface. So if you're using butt joints, your glue joints pretty much become null and void at that point, unless you want to go through and sand where your contact points are, which sounds like more headache than it's worth. So by cutting all these joints, I now have raw lumber so that glue will attach to each other. This is just showing how I'm using the backer. I put backers on all of my cabinets to make my life easier. I went with 1/2-inch backer on everything. It means I'm not really going to have to add an extra cleat to all of my pieces either, because between the glue, brads, and then once this is all dry, I will add screws to it as well. It's going to hold everything together. Because all this stuff is going to be hung in a space, and this cabinet will be flanked on both sides by walls, I just use screws on all of my end pieces to hold everything together as it dries. I could check my diagonals. This one was pretty perfect, and then I could start gluing up the upper fridge cabinet. I've made a couple of these upper fridge cabinets over the course of my career. I don't love them. They're a very awkward size. Doesn't mean that they're heavy, just really hard to be able to wrap your arms around it, because this one's 24 inches tall, 30 inches wide. You have to have quite a large wingspan in order to be able to wrap your arms around it. And the other thing I've learned using pre-finished ply is bigger cabinetry is already kind of hard to move around because you don't have a lot of grip. The smooth surface on these made them much harder to move around the shop. Even with all those pitfalls, I would still use it. The fact that I now don't have to be concerned with the inside of this cabinetry at all, because it's already finished, is a huge time saver. So once everything was glued together, I could start attaching my face frames, and like I said, I had that integrated tongue on it. So all I have to do now is line up my piece with the tongue, mark where that joint's going to be, and then you see it fits right on that tongue. I start with my stiles, put those in place, and then I'll do my rails. I only filmed doing the the fridge cabinet at this point, but you see how everything taps into place. It holds really well. Any sort of excess glue is going, and any sort of excess gluing surface is just going to make this joint that much stronger. You can see for the bottom, like I said, all I did was line it up, mark where that tongue was, bring it to the table saw, line it up with the 1/4-inch dado stack I had in there, and run it through. And then everything taps into place. and that is basically what that is. Because like I said, I'm building a whole cabinet, I bought a huge stack of poplar. I had already ripped it down to my sizes. The customer and I had decided on sizes of stiles and rails, so all of that stuff was already cut. So start the doors on this. For both of them, they're double doored pieces. I'm going to show you how I make the doors, but I'm not going to show you how I hang them in this video. And basically all I did is the same process for all of my doors. Like I said, I already had a stack of lumber ripped down to size. This is 2 inches wide. I'm doing all of my rails and stiles. I cut my stiles to exact height. I cut my rails to roughly exact width. And then I added that groove down the middle of all of my pieces. It is a 1/4 inch groove, perfectly centered on all of my pieces. And then I can dial in the tongue on a scrap piece of wood, go through with my measurements. You can see this is for the taller double door, my measurements there. I can line up my measurements, mark where that groove is. So the width of these, let's say it was, I think that paper says 10 inches. I'm going to set up my stiles both at 10 inches, then measure between the mark, and that is going to be for the size of my rails. Now when I'm doing inset doors, basically it's best when you're opening as square as possible. I make my doors just to fit into the frame because all of them are going to be scribed to fit. So when I take the outer perimeter measurement, I'm going to cut it perfectly in half because these are double doors, and that's the size of the door I'm going to make it. So it fits perfectly inside the frame. It makes it easier to scribe it. So then once I had that measurement, like I said, I could cut down my rails. I already have my tongue set up on the radial arm saw. I test fit before I cut all these pieces. It's just a stop with a raised stack, and that's how I cut all of them pretty quickly. On this one, I'm using 1/4 inch MDF for all the door panels. I have found that it's the flattest material, and plywood used to be a true 1/4. It's getting skinnier and skinnier, and the thickness of it is just not consistent. The problem with this is I can only find this material in 2x4 foot handy panels by me, which makes it more expensive to buy than the cabinet grade ply. So I would like to find it in full 4x8 sheets. But the nice about MDF is if you get 1/4 inch MDF, it's going to be that exact size throughout the whole panel. So I can use my dado stack to cut the grooves. I won't have to worry about it moving around on me. Shelf pins, I just drill with some pegboard, and pretty simple process. I use a really sharp bit for this. Like I said, tear out on this pre-finished ply was pretty severe, so I used a sharp bit, and I can just quickly drill those holes in that ply. Like I said, I'm not going to show you how I fit the doors because that's a process in and of itself. I have a video a couple weeks old on the channel showing how I did that, but that's something I'll probably tackle during the full kitchen build. But you can see 2 completely different size cabinets. All you have to do is worry about the sides with that, and you can pretty much make any cabinet using those principles.